All right, is everyone able to hear me? Can just confirm in the chat, that'll be great. Apologies for that technical difficulty. We had some issues, so hopefully should be able to hear us now. And we'll also have Mason join us soon. So first of all, just wanted to thank everyone. A lot to cover in today's agenda because a lot of great things happened over the past week, including the successful product and launch with all of the local large language model support, and of course a lot of work going on with improving the SDKs and also improving the overall developer experience leveraging the documentation. So we'll just kick it off in the next a couple of minutes. We'll just wait for Mason to also join in, and then we'll go over the agenda. A lot to cover today, and of course, feel free to share around how I've been building with the SDK and how has been my experience using the product so far. Would love to hear how is the experience because of course there's so many breaking changes, including a lot of UI UX changes to all of the developer plugins and extensions that were launched in VS Code and JetBrains. So if you have been trying those out, how has been your experience so far? Feel free to add in the comments. And you can type in the chat if you're able to hear us fine. Would love to know. Yes, I think ultimately what depends is the kind of local large language model that you're using, because every model has a different prompt, context length, and of course, as we have also kind of explored, as we were comparing different results from IBM's Granite model versus like Gemini 1.5. In fact, like there's also support coming in for Claude 3.5. What we've come to across is to see that every single LLM has its own, the way that it answers the questions or its own personality, which is really interesting to see. Of course, sometimes you might not get a correct result if you're leveraging a smaller context window-based LLM. So we also built a tool that kind of evaluates based on the results from all the different possible um, large language models. So you can use that to see that for a given context, what is the most accurate way or the most accurate model. I'll make sure to also share the link. We already shared in the open source chat, and we'll also have a demo of that as well for today. But we'll soon have Random and Mason joining in soon as well. So thanks for tagging along. Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. I think ultimately, if the LLM has not been trained over your current context, and that's why you see so many RAG-based applications, including if you look at Perplexity. So one news I would like to share is that there's also an incoming support in the future for the Perplexity API. So there will be a dedicated model, and of course, given the fact that the way that Perplexity also scrapes the internet with all the latest information, so I think that should make it much better in terms of being able to also fetch the latest information, which of course is always a concern. But one of the use cases that you can always deploy is have your training data set that you can add to the context as additional context. And of course, using the QGPT endpoint, you can leverage the QGPT endpoint to, uh, of course, now fine tune in a way fine tune your large language model performance to work well with your current data set. So that's one of the most exciting developments that is going to happen soon with the launch of the Perplexity model as well. So if your use case kind of demands you to get the latest information, you no longer have to use separate APIs that are constantly scraping the web and build an entire complex RAG pipeline and use like vector search. So of course, if you might have seen some of the previous live streams, you might know that they're running a quadrant DB, which of course uses the vector search capability locally for the Copilot Plus experience. And similar way, you're leveraging a lot of times these vector databases to get the latest context and give only appropriate context, given the fact that there might still be a lot of additional metadata in order to make your uh, responses from the LLMs better. Okay, so we also have Arindam on the stage. Arindam, if you just want to quickly introduce and talk about what you've been up to.
Yeah, so hey there everyone, I'm Arindam and developer advocate at Pieces. So yeah, sorry for the glitches. We are having some technical issues here, and yeah, finally we are back. That's the good news, right? So yeah, this week it was like a bit hectic for me. I was working on few projects, and we had our successful product and launch thanks to you awesome folks, and really appreciate all of your support. And it was a huge success for us. And you know, we don't have words to thank you all because the great support you have shown. Like we gross almost like 740 plus supports, and also like it was the product of the day, and probably most probably uh, we are also the product of the week, right? If I'm not wrong. Uh, so yeah, it was pretty great one, and all those comments, all those feedbacks were really invaluable for us. So yeah, uh, this week was all about product hunt, and yeah, from now on we will be focusing more on open source. We have some cool projects that we will share pretty soon, and then we'll like to have you folks contribute to us. For example, we have one of our example TypeScript project, right? So that is completely based on React. So if you anyone have any experience on React and looking forward to contribute to some open source project, that is the best part to get your hands dirty. So yeah, I would recommend everyone to just go check there and start contributing to that. And I always mention that project because that project is pretty close to my heart, as I started my contribution journey of like that was my first pieces project that I started contributing. So yeah, that was a great journey. And I guess if you have any questions regarding that, feel free to hop on our Discord, and we are always try to help you out regarding that. So yeah, we are working on these steps. Over to you, Shiva.
And then do you want to probably just talk more about the specific student plan, considering that there might be some live students as well on what they can expect?
Yeah, sure. Awesome. So in pieces, we are also working on how students can leverage pieces on their day-to-day work. For example, uh, there are several tasks, right, that takes a lot of time. For example, suppose your professor is writing code on your college board or something. You can just take a snap, and you can just upload that to pieces, and you can just generate the code from it. So that's a simple use case, but that enhances your productivity because you don't have to write the code again and again, and that reduces the time, and you can just straight away work on the code part. And also just suppose you have some assignment or you need some assistant, right? Copilot is always there. So these are the we are just exploring different ways how you can leverage pieces as students. And if you are using pieces in different ways, just feel free to comment that down. We'll be happy to check those features, because you can describe that features best, like how you are implementing that in your daily day-to-day life. So we are heavily working on that, and we are also preparing some workshops around that, like how you can maximize your productivity, not as a developer, also as a student. So, and I feel that will really help your overall productivity. And yeah, so we are completely open to suggestion. If you have some use cases or like some pain points, just feel free to mention that on either YouTube comments or like Discord, and we will be taking that on note, and we'll try to fix that and how to improve that one. So we will work on that, and probably we'll share some content as well. So yeah, these are our plans regarding the student. So if you are a student going to college, looking forward to have a assistant, go to pieces copilot, try with different LLMs. So you can just ask your question, upload your question, and take assistance. So just for example, let me share a story. So in my college, I had one assignment around I have to learn a new functional language that is called OCaml. So I was pretty new to that. I didn't have much knowledge around that. So what I did is, like, I went to pieces and I asked them to okay, what is OCaml? Can you just, as a beginner, can you just give me a basic outline of what is OCaml, what is the syntax, how are the like what are the main concepts of that. And then I just take it as a friend of mine, discussing with it, asking again and again, okay, so what does that part means, okay, what does this syntax means, why you have used this one. And I just have a long conversation with the copilot, and it was like chatting with your friend on uh, any social media, and just asking about it, how you implemented this, why you implemented that. And by that way I was able to learn that language pretty fast, above my like other friends as well. Then I also told them to try this way, and they also tried and it worked well. So if you are learning a new language, I would recommend, like, okay, go to the docs. That's the best place. But after that, if you have any queries, okay, so why that is describing that way, why I should learn in this syntax, right? So just go to copilot, and you can always provide your context as well. You can just add your code snippets, add the file as a context, and just ask based on that, so it will give you feedback. The way you have written the code, I guess this is good, but you can make that better in that way. So these are some simple implementation that I did, and it worked pretty well. And yeah, so this is the way you can incorporate pieces in your day to day, and as a college student as well. So yeah, uh, highly recommended to check those features out, and let us know how it goes for you. Yeah.
I think Mason probably won't be able to join us. I don't know if you perhaps have access to your laptop. Do you mind? Probably what we can, how the way that we can divide this further is, first, if you want to just, if you have the capability to show your screen, we can just talk about the latest features that were launched as part of the product hunt, and showcase all the live new LLMs and the experience of using the updated Copilot chat experience in like VS Code. And we can talk about the updates taking place in the okay. So just 1 second, give me. So yeah, I think ultimately what we can also do is we can share some of the updates that have taken place. So of course we spoke about all the product hunt updates, including the launch of the new large language models, and the of course, the biggest change being that now the Copilot app that's being served, that originally started off as being part of the desktop app, now, of course, was recreated using Flutter and that same app is now being served across all the different major extensions with support coming in for the PWA with the help of WebAssembly. So essentially, the OS or piece of OS will actually serve that WebAssembly module, and that gets rendered as part of your the UI. So every single extension going forward, so the biggest benefit that you get with this is that it saves the time in actually writing code for the same copilot that was earlier. So if you might have remembered that earlier we used to have the shared copilot TypeScript package that was being leveraged for incorporating the same set of QGPT endpoints and all the endpoints that are currently supported for pieces OS in and then it is being served on Zopato Lab, on Obsidian, and the VS Code extension. But now all of them will support this native web UI that has the capability of running on the web. I think even Arnam might be having some difficulty with sharing the screen, but what we'll do is that after this session ends, we will create some short videos about talking about some of the major features. Of course, you can always refer back to the live streams that took place around the time of the product hunt, and those go much deep into technically or around how to actually leverage the new UI and the new large language models powered for the live context feature. And of course, the biggest changes in terms of the open source land are the updated SDKs. So no longer do you have to work with the native SDKs, which can be a bit challenging to leverage. So of course, similar to how you have the core TensorFlow library, and then we had wrapper around it with Keras that underlying still uses TensorFlow as a backend. We kind of wanted to adopt a similar approach in terms of just making the developer experience improve for the standard set of SDK APIs that you're leveraging. So starting off with the QGPT endpoints in order to interact with the vector data and with the LLMs, you can check out. I think we'll also just share the links. Those you can find on Mason's profile, and if you're actively part of the open source channel on Discord, you'll find those SDKs as well. And I think that reduces the kind of complexity in terms of just being able to iterate and build with the SDKs. So that should be a lot more easier to incorporate and update your code. So if you have been using the main APIs, you have a lot of wrapper functions now which you can directly call. And a lot of the interfacing code, of course, if you might have used any of the previous SDKs, one of the starting points is to create like a connection endpoint, then define your application. So all those are taken care of by just defining those as configuration and leveraging these endpoints, which not required to write a lot of that code. So I think that should greatly improve the experience. And of course, the goal is not to stop here. Currently, you might have seen that we have also updated the Python and the TypeScript SDKs. There's also ongoing effort to update the Dart and also perhaps the Kotlin SDK. So those should also be updated soon. And of course, this is something that we have covered in the previous cycles. Of course, given the fact that so many different products lines that are there. So of course, moving towards a more product-led documentation as well as sprints that Mason will be focusing on. So in the next few weeks, you'll also see a lot of the extensions around Sublime. So in fact, like if anyone uses Sublime, the Sublime plugin just got approved, and you should be able to now use the Sublime plugin that's built by Bishoy. I think he's not able to join us, but we'll definitely share links for how you can very easily leverage the extension for Sublime. And apart from that, of course, on the open source side, we are now starting development, or at least we are in the phase of brainstorming around the new Vim plugin, which most likely might use the Python SDK. So a lot of developers who are primarily leveraging new Vim or Vim based, profiles, they will be really happy to see that how you could improve the developer experience and not have to rely on the GUI based SDK or the GUI based experiences with VS Code. I know like there's a very strong army of developers who will not touch any GUI based system. So we are in the process of kind of finalizing how the new plugin would look like, but that will also be most likely leveraging the Python SDK, as you might have seen with the CLI and the Sublime plugin. So those are some of the great examples that you can leverage in order to understand how you can use these SDKs and build whatever. It could be a simple application that you might build at a hackathon, or you could actually integrate that in your full stack applications to bring in any kind of database or AI functionalities with the vector search. And of course, one great thing is that we might also introduce the live context feature directly into baked into the SDKs. So if you are running Copilot or you're running the live context feature, it's no longer just going to be available. Hopefully, that's something that we're kind of still deciding on the way, like in-house, but most likely we should also add the support for live context feature with the help of the APIs. So if you're building an extension yourself, or if you're building a project, then you want to leverage the live context feature, because of course, in so many different ways, you can think of live context feature as being this really powerful way of just not having to manually add the context every single time, and you can always keep it dynamic. So if you're having productivity based challenges with having to constantly switch and add new context, that's one of the things that the live context feature really helps with. And by the way, like, since we are talking about live context feature, would love to hear in the comments around how people are leveraging the live context feature. Would love to kind of hear feedback around how all of you have been using it, and um, what's your feedback on the improved performance, because there's a lot of effort in improving the overall optimization in terms of CPU and GPU utilization. So feel free to add in the comments, or I don't know if you want to perhaps talk about your own use cases around how you have been using, and if you want to touch upon the previous live streams as well.
Yeah, sure. So like the live context is like super helpful for me. Like if I want to say about myself, like I always mess around, what I have to do. Like I have a chat with someone in Slack, and I like almost forgot that okay what I have discussed with them, and suddenly I have to talk to him for some reason. So how I did is like I just give a context to the live context, and just ask him okay so what I was discussing to suppose Shivai, right? And he will probably give me the context. Okay, you are discussing on these topics, and you have to do this and give it to Shivai by today, right? So that really helps me to be on the same page. So that is a basic use case I do. And for like other stuff, like I always have multiple tabs open on my browser, and it is a bit hard for me to switch between multiple and keep track of them. So I also used to okay so what is the tweet I was writing about, or like what is the context I was writing about, right? So that thing I really like. The live context really enhances my productivity in that way. And we would also love to know how you are using uh, live context in your day-to-day work. I see Sophia has commented the live context helps me to keep track of what I do, especially when I try to multitasking. Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the best use cases of live context. Like uh, just feed them what you are doing all the way, and it will give you the context. Okay, you are doing this stuff, and it will keep remembering you, and it will be easier for you to work, and we don't have to forget things. So yeah. And we are in pieces, we are doing all the podcast recently. So we will share the link in the comments. So we recently did a podcast, and we are also doing live streams, like learning pieces. Okay, so if one of you are interested to jump on a stream, just feel free to comment, and we'll probably bring you up and discuss. Because, like we are like Jim is doing, Jim, our developer advocate, he is doing live streams with like how you can leverage pieces to learn, uh, like learning pieces, and also learning a new stuff. Recently Eli also did a live stream to how you can person who doesn't have much technical knowledge, and start your learning journey with pieces. So these are the use cases you can start using. So I might share the links in the comments. Then you can check those out, and feel free to join if you are interested. Yeah. So I guess I have shared the link. Yeah, I see few familiar faces. Sophia, Idrin. Udva. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining, folks. And yeah, just to touch upon the open source projects part, I have it like told before, and just to touch upon, like, we are, as we are adding some new features, we are just revamping those things. You can feel free to check on the docs as well. We are also restructuring that, and we'll be based on like most product first docs. It will be like mostly focused on the product, then we'll be jumping towards the SDK parts and all the stuff built with pieces, right? So we will also organize some workshops like how you can leverage those SDKs, and also in future we'll be adding the live context, and you can easily integrate that in your project, and you can build some cool apps, as we are also like started to see some cool apps built with pieces SDK. So if you are a developer, just feel free to check the SDKs. It has some awesome features, and you can just build some awesome apps with that. And I am like myself built a small CLI tool using pieces, and which you can just provide context and do all your steps in like the CLI. So you can also just think about it, how you can incorporate that AI stuff in your project, and just leverage the like the power of AI in your projects using the SDK. And the best part is you don't need any API keys, and you don't need you don't have to pay anything to use those stuff. So yeah, just feel free to integrate that. And always, if you have any sort of questions regarding to like how to use that, or like I am stuck somewhere, so you can just ping us on Discord or like in GitHub chats. We are always there to help you out, and we are like always happy to shout you out on like if you are working on a project that uses pieces SDK. We'll be happy to bring you up on live streams like this, and give you a platform to showcase your project, right? So these are the things we are currently working on. And yeah, next up, yeah, yeah, Shiva, you can go next if you want, or I can probably share about the roadmap. Is right, if you want. Okay, so yeah, just recently I contributed to roadmap.sh on a like on their DevRel roadmap. So if you are folks interested to learn about DevRel, you can just go to that and check out their DevRel roadmap. I recently contributed to that. And uh, just to mention, we also have a live stream with the developer advocate of roadmap.sh, Dan, and we'll be creating a pieces roadmap, like how it should be. So if you are interested, you can also feel free to join that. I might share the link in the chat. So yeah, you can feel free to set the reminder for that, and you can probably join that and learn how roadmap of sh is working and how it is so Sophia, I guess you mentioned. Yeah, so I have shared the link. I guess you should be able to see that on the chat. Let me know if you cannot see. So probably add those in the comments or in the descriptions as well. So these are some cool things we are doing currently, and uh, this is uh, this is it like for now. Shiva, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. So one additional thing that I think we didn't cover before was that we are also, of course, it's always super useful if you are leveraging the SDKs with any hackathon. So there's this ongoing Hashnode API or Hashnode AI hackathon. We already shared about that in the chat of the Discord channel on the open source side. So you can also leverage that as well. Okay, I think Amitesh should be able to join now. Right, perfect. So yeah, I think we'll talk about the hackathon, but here let's just also touch upon all of the live context features and the new features that were added. So of course, by now all of you should be aware of the live context feature. Of course, we added tons of new large language model support. So if you look at the on cloud models, we have Gemini 1.5 Flash, we have Gemini 1.5 Pro with also Claude coming in very soon. And if you look at the on device, I think a lot of focus was adding a lot of the various, requested LLMs, including IBM Granite models, Gemma 1 models, then Llama 3 from Meta, and then also updating the Mistral model. So now, one of the different things that you'll find is earlier there were dedicated models for your CPU and GPU. So one of the bigger changes that have taken place is that now, whenever you install a model, depending on your system config, these will automatically be able to find out the most optimized model type. So whether it's like CPU or GPU. So that is why what you'll see is that we don't have dedicated CPU and GPU based models, because now it has become much more intelligent in being able to foresee that depending on your configuration of your system, which is the version that will be recommended to you. So that's, I think, just making again the development experience easier. You don't have to think much about, okay, should I install the CPU version and the GPU version. It's just making it more seamless. And if we perhaps, Amitesh, we can open up the VS Code and showcase the new UI. And what you're seeing over here, as Amitesh is also sharing his uh, screen right now, this entire Copilot experience is now essentially a standalone app, which is now being served in the desktop app and the various extensions and plugins that are around, that you see, with support coming in for the PWE and the others. So we'll just quickly also show you the user experience on the VS Code extension side. Until then, I mean, we'd love to hear feedback from users around how do you feel. And of course, Ulpa, thanks for talking about that you have downloaded the application. But yes, if you have any kind of use cases and you have any doubts, do join the Discord server, because that's where the community will be there to help you in terms of trying to just understand that how you might best use the pieces, or perhaps if you're building with the SDKs, what's the best way or which LLM model to use, how to best leverage live context feature. There are tons of resources that we've added through blogs and also in the documentation that have a live reference guide around how you can leverage what kind of prompts you can give to the large language models in order to best utilize the LLMs. And I think we should be soon sharing out um, the VS Code UI experience as well. And then if anyone has any questions on the experience so far, would love to hear. But while Amitesh is kind of sharing his VS Code screen, then I'll also just talk about the Hashnode hackathon. So the Hashnode hackathon, we'll share the link for that, is essentially this AI hackathon that's been running throughout this June month and July month, and you can use any open source models and uh, build any AI product that you want to use. So you can leverage the vector search, and you can leverage whatever you want to use, and any of the large language models, any products. You can always use the QGPT endpoints. In fact, like I had shared a link for a very simple haiku generation of basically haiku based on an image. So first the image gets processed through the PyGemma model to generate a caption, and then you send over that caption into the QGPT endpoint to generate a haiku. So, well, that's a really simple project, a very high level project, but you can go much deeper and you can actually leverage the SDKs for a much better experience. But I'll just wait to see if you're able to get on this. Might be having some.
Yeah, sure. So till then, folks, if you have any question around it, like if you have some questions or like any use cases, as Shiva mentioned, feel free to jump on our Discord, or you can also, share your use cases on the chat as well. Uh, yeah. So yeah, just wait for a few minutes, as we are having some technical issues from our side. We'll probably, share the screen with you, and we'll show how you can leverage the uh, in like the pieces extension in VS Code as well. So yeah, Shiva, is everything okay?
All right. Let's see. Able to get this on, but I feel like, oh, okay, only waiting. But yeah, of course, of course, don't worry. Like, we'll be sharing the links for all of the open source SDK updates, and of course, everything that we've covered so far in the chat soon. So definitely join the Discord if you haven't already, and keep an eye on the open source chat section where we'll be sharing all these resources as part of this particular live stream. Uh, let's just see if. Oh, okay. So Amitesh is getting an error in the VS Code extension, so hopefully he should be able to get show that. But till then, we'd be open to questions if you have any questions with respect to the latest updates and the open source projects as well. Feel free to ask your questions regarding usage, around live context, around all the new features that we launched as part of the product hunt. So we'll be more than happy to take those up. So of course, Udbay is asking the thing that I'm very curious to test is the amount of resources that will be taken up for running the local environment. So of course, but like that's where you get the choice. If you feel that your local environment is not really having much compute, you can always use and leverage the open source, or sorry, not the open source, but cloud-based models, and that way the only compute that's taking place. And if you, let's say, opt in not to use the live context feature, so I think pieces will perhaps take like 2 or 3 GB. But of course, more if you have more bandwidth available, if you have some GPU support, you can always run even some of the small models. So that's why you see that some of the models are the 2 billion parameter models, some of them are 7 or 8. So depending on how what's the kind of use case that you want to have. So if you're just giving a single file or a single folder as context, perhaps the 2 billion parameter model should be sufficed. Or if you have a larger project, then you can always use the cloud-based APIs that have much larger context length and will be able to help you. Of course, the only, I guess, not necessarily downside, but the only thing is that you, of course, uh, the great thing is that PCOS will also mask a lot of your information, private information like your secrets, or in that case, even any information that is private. And hopefully in the future, we'll also see within the live context feature around what kind of applications you want to get tracked. Because of course, we have, you know, uh, gotten this question again and again that how do you maintain the privacy? And reiterating on the fact that the way that the live context feature works is that it will take snapshots, or you can say that there are these banners that will take important. It will identify that whenever you are having a useful workflow, and it'll take snapshots of those, save them locally on your system under the pieces was directory. There you can find all of the important snippets, and then passing them on to the vector database that's running again locally in a system that's not a cloud hosted version. So that's why like the live context feature will leverage more, or will require more compute power, because it is leveraging the Gordon DB that's running locally in a system, and then very intelligently be able to understand that how, and if you are having multiple workflows, how are they interlinked with each other. So that, for example, if you're reviewing a PR for a project that you're running locally, you can ask about, like, let's say you got some feedback about your PR, and you want to re-implement certain functionality in your PR. Your code is running locally, you'll still be able to have automatic suggestions from and the live context feature will be contextually aware. You'll not have to add manual context to both the PR as a website and your code. So what is happening on the screen, it will be able to get those. So just give me 1 second. Okay, so Amitesh should be ready. Let me bring him on stage. You can also touch upon the VS Code side of things. So yeah, Amitesh, so here what you see is the UI essentially is pretty similar to what you'll find on the desktop app. As I mentioned already, that it is leveraging the same Flutter app that's now being served as WebAssembly module and getting rendered, and that's being actually served by the PCOS. So as a WebAssembly module, if you're not aware of what WebAssembly does, it's a low-level runtime that allows you to ship applications across different environments. So it's a really great way, and it's really lightweight as well. And given the fact that it's lightweight, loading time should be a lot more significant, and it should actually be a lot faster for us now to ship updates that are universal and not have to do multiple iterations of the same code to be implemented in different IDs. So yeah, so I think one question, by the way, that we got from design experiences, that I have a little issue that on the launch of Pieces OS, it doesn't show a proper window. Uh, it gets hidden and this shows a transparent window. So I think if you're talking about Pieces OS itself, if you look at the top nav bar, there is an icon for Pieces which you can always leverage for some quick actions, including optimizing your memory usage, or if you want to turn off the workflow pattern engine, those are already supported. But yeah, as you see now with the VS Code extension, you get that same set of functionality, including live context, which is now available across all the different ID plugins. So that's one of the major features that was launched as part of the overall experience of now being able to leverage that same live context feature in the IDs as well. So I think like that's one of the great new experiences that you will find. So for example, and the great thing is now that these are all actual links. For example, if you are creating a new Copilot conversation, you'll find it getting updated in the desktop app as well. So essentially, the state that we maintain for conversations and selecting the runtimes, all those should be streamlined across the different extensions and the desktop app. And of course, in the future, once we launch the newly updated Copilot experience in by the way, Udba is sharing that he's taking the US. So thanks for sharing that. I know like a lot of effort goes into ensuring that it's always from a developer experience side of things, the UI is going to be good. So Udba is asking the reason I stayed for the local resource point is that I'm currently using Olama to test out the LLM models. And yes, but so like of course, the way that uh, Olama works is that it simply just downloads the model artifacts, similar to how with Docker you will install a Docker file, and you'll be able to leverage that to install all of your images. In similar way, Olama kind of will just download the model artifacts and it will run the model. It does not necessarily do any kind of optimization itself. It's simply just there to run a local large language model and interface it with your system. The way that pieces OS would work is that and that's also one of the reasons that you'll not have support for any large language model out of the box. So there are a lot of optimizations that go into the rack pipeline, into how the context is actually set, and in order to just make the optimizations on the model level as well. So that's one of the reasons. But you can definitely see a difference in terms of the performance versus running it completely locally with Olama, just raw out of the box, and versus running it with that. And of course, Olama is just a tool for running these models, downloading the artifacts and running it. If you want to build like a Copilot chat experience, you want to include vector search, context, you'll have to do all of that manually. You'll have to write functions. You can leverage some kind of open source tool like LangChain if you want to kind of build your own prompt pipelines. That's a really nice SDK in JavaScript, in Python, in Java that you can leverage. But yeah, this is a quick experience of the VS Code. And Mitesh, if you can probably share your screen, if you can go to Mason's GitHub profile, we can quickly also talk about the new updated SDKs that he's been working on. So like basically creating Copilot wrapper on top of the new SDKs. So if you have access to the Chrome, you can just go to Mason's GitHub profile. So it's Mason hyphen at pieces. And we'll just touch upon how they work. So we also have some code samples. So first one we can talk about is the Python one. Dylan, if anyone has any questions, do feel free to ask them in the chat. So let's see. Yeah, so there are a couple of open source projects that we'll like to touch on. If you can just go to manually to the profile on GitHub, we can touch upon the different open source projects that the team has been growing up, including like creating a voice chat. Again, this is shared on the open source channel. We'll just touch upon that again. So hopefully, once Amtish should be able to share his screen, we'll quickly touch upon those. Okay, so we should soon share the screen. Just give a few moments. By the way, till then, just to answer the question, John is asking, wondering if I can abuse pieces for writing a short paragraph on performance measurement results. Do you mind probably sharing more insights into what kind of performance results are you talking about? Are you referring to? Okay, and we'll till then add Avadesh's screen to over here. Yeah. So this is the first one. This is the pieces Copilot Python SDK. So what you'll see over here is if you go a bit deeper into the Copilot SDK, here the idea really is that you create a wrapper around the core QGPT endpoints, whether it's for creating a new conversation, updating a new conversation, or adding. Perhaps in the future, we also add like in the very near future, you'll also see some functions for adding context and relevance to the QGPT endpoints. So you don't have to use the raw endpoints now directly, which are still, of course, available to use. You'll find them on the documentation side as well. But now it's just a lot more easier to leverage the extension and leverage this Copilot SDK if you're building specific functionalities with Copilot. And similarly, there's another one. So what you'll see over here is that there are a lot of like common functions, including create conversation, get all of your conversations, and then ask the QGPT ask endpoint or the QGPT question endpoint where you're actually sending in a prompt to the user. So all these are very common set of functionalities. So it essentially reduces the amount of tech debt that you have in order to like not have to worry about writing all those complex. And here is like the full example where you see that we have defined these endpoints, we have imported the package, and we have defined. And by the way, like this is available on PyPy as well. So feel free to leverage the extension, sorry, the SDK. And here you can see that we are using these get conversation, create conversation endpoints, fetching all of them, fetching just the conversation ID, which can be used for different purposes, and it just makes it a lot more easier to interface. And this is just the beginning, so you'll have a lot more set of such improvements coming in to make it easier, because we understand in the past it has been a bit tricky leveraging the this case. So this should be a great addition as we add more to it. And then there's also a cool project with the pieces void CLI, like the void chat. So here what Mason did was he used essentially a whisper model that can run locally in your system, so an optimized version of the whisper model, which will first take input of your uh, voice and convert that into text, and then you can leverage that text to ask any question using the QCPT endpoint. You could perhaps also use the assets endpoint to save, if you're like, let's say, talking through a code snippet and you want to save that, you can use the assets endpoint as well. So this is again a great way to showcase that how you can essentially merge together multiple models and create like a very seamless pipeline, and how easy it's to integrate other open source tools, other open source LLMs, other open source models, um, and include them. So these are just to give you an idea that what kind of projects you can actually build. So if you are interested in building something for the Hashroom AI hackathon, you can take this particular example as a reference and build your own example as well. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Amitesh. I think we are kind of running towards the end. Just a couple of questions. So Bhutan is asking me to see what it does with the data and find a model to understand that. So yeah, Bhutan, like that's a really interesting use case, and definitely do share your insights onto how you're able to accomplish. It was really interesting to see that how you were able to leverage it for defining. I think there's the credit, or you had used it for certificate generation. I guess that is the main use case, but yeah, it would be interesting to see. Then design experience asking, I'm still trying to understand if will be an extension versus VS Code or a separate environment. I'm new to Flutter art, so just a little. Yeah, so essentially, what you'll see is that the VS Code extension example was like you have, of course, the VS Code as the main ID, and then you have a dedicated extension, which specifically for which the Copilot aspect is just a Flutter app that's being rendered as a WebAssembly module. And that same Copilot app is now being served across all the different projects. So of course, apart from that, you'll still get the regular features of the VS Code extension, which allows you to save your snippets and also be able to update those, generate the links. So those are still going to be the same. It's just the main Copilot experience that is now unified across all the different tools. And then Udba is asking the question, is the environment specifically tailored for developers or it can be used to generate configurations for other roles? Definitely. So I think ultimately the way that you prompt the system, in fact, like if you look at, you can specify certain prompt pipelines which allow you to kind of interchange how the desired feature, and ultimately you can give it a lot more bigger prompt to act in a very specific way. So if it's sysadmin related uh, workflow, or like let's say you are working with database networking, you can generate a dedicated result, and of course you can give the life, you can give the context. Of course primarily it is for developers, but that doesn't change. Like if you are a sysadmin dealing with database configs, those are all taken care of if you add relevant data as context for, or even if like you're leveraging live context feature, you might have your database schemas being defined, and you can store all of those information as part of your context without having to manually add that, and that should make it more inclined towards your role as a database sysadmin or network professional. But yeah, I think I hope that answers the question, and uh, you can essentially make it whatever you want. If you even are a designer, you want to save your Figma designs in a database, you can think of and prompt it to work like that. And of course, based on the live context feature, based on your workflow, it will adapt eventually to understand, whether you have workflow as a software engineer, as a database admin. If you're kind of managing more on the schema side, it will be able to understand that. Yeah, I think we'll conclude the session right now. And again, thanks everyone for joining in. We'll be sharing all the links in the Discord, so definitely stay tuned. And thanks for. And I don't know if you want to probably add anything else.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, that was it. Like, thanks a lot everyone for like tuning in. Though we had some technical difficulties, but yeah, thanks a lot for joining. And if you have, again, if you have any questions or like any issues, working with our SDKs or our desktop app or something, just feel free to ping us on Discord. We are always there to help you out. Or like if you have some cool ideas, right, building with pieces, but if you need some assistance from us, so we'll be more than happy to help you out with any resources or like any assistance. So just feel free to ping us, and don't forget to share your learnings as well. So if you are learned a new use case, just feel free to share with us, so we'll be also incorporating that in our things as well. So yeah, that was it. Thanks a lot for joining, and we'll be seeing you in pretty soon. Awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.